You're listening to the Culture Junkie podcast, where we go beyond the surface of pop culture.
I'm Keith.
And I'm Xandra. Together, we dive into the craft process and passion that drive today's creators. This is the Culture Junkie podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast today. I'm really excited to introduce Michel Neray, who I haven't seen in quite some time, but we go way back. And you're not an expert in just one thing. You're an expert in a bunch of different projects, in different types of music, neuro-linguistic programming. You've got momondays. You're doing momondays was a monthly speaker storytelling format, and people would go up and talk. And you were in how many different cities?
We were, I've just settled on a number, and because I couldn't really remember, and I just told everybody, yeah, we were in 16 cities across Canada and the US pre-COVID. But then I actually sat down with the list and I said, wait a minute, we were in close to 20.
Wow. How did you manage? Did you go around to all the cities, or did you have a sort of franchise?
Well, it was licensed out to what we call Mo hosts in our community, and they would take it on. They would want to build their own little community locally, and some of them were amazing, like amazing, and some of them I wasn't so happy with.
Right. As anything, when it grows, it changes and can evolve in all sorts of different directions.
Right.
I got to go to a few of your Mo Mondays events,
and you got to speak at a few of them.
And I even got to speak at some back in 2015. I think we were just recalling that, and it was a great experience. It was really nice to chat with different people that you wouldn't have necessarily have met otherwise, and a wonderful way to bring a bunch of different professionals together from different. So how do you know so many people from different?
So first of all, actually, I'm glad you asked me that question, because as you were doing the very gracious introduction, talking about how you, meaning me, I think, about being, I don't want to use the word expert, but into different things.
Yeah.
I was thinking I said, I wonder if she's using the word you as in you or you as in universal you, because I believe that we are all, I don't want to use the word expert, but skilled, knowledgeable, whatever you want to choose, in multiple different ways that we often don't give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
But the thing that we do hang our hats on, if we choose that, if we choose one thing to go with, as you would if you were niche yourself in branding or whatever, it's all what makes you great at one of the things that makes you great in that one area is what you bring to it from all the other areas that you're skilled and knowledgeable in. And we often don't give ourselves credit and don't acknowledge all those other areas. Each of those areas really has a separate community attached to them.
Yeah.
So you ask, how do you know so many people? Well, I think I'm no different from a lot of other people, except the hermits who really stay in their house and never leave. I think we're all part of, if we start counting the different communities that we belong to and we just reach out to them, I think for most of us, it's really is a big number.
Yeah, that's a good point, to point out that we all do make connections across the board in so many ways, through work, through school, through leaving your house even.
Right.
You're going to bump into so many people. And just like that concept of sonder, every single person you touch in your whole life has a story behind them. And it's very interesting to see that you are open enough to all the people in your life that you want them to come in and share their stories in an event like Mo Monday.
Yeah, and that came about, it's funny because sometimes we only know ourselves through the side comments that people make about you. It took me a while to realize that one of my skills came from one of my natural curiosities, which is what makes people tick.
I can understand that. I really love documentary filmmaking, and I have to always pull back from creating another documentary. So I think that might be part of why we started this podcast is we're so fascinated to hear people's stories, and this is a sustainable way for me to scratch the documentary filmmaking itch
I get it. I get it.
without doing the full tilt boogie
The
into.
10-year project for each one.
Exactly, exactly. So I get my little bites, my little tasty bites of documentary and storytelling and filmmaking in creating this endeavor.
Yeah. And in fact, I would say that I don't know what, I can't remember whether I learned this first or it was only in retrospect, but in one of my iterations in my professional career, I was a copywriter, advertising copywriter. So it was my job well, it wasn't my job. It was my job to look at the creative brief, the strategic
Mhm,
brief, and
mhm.
figure out to where to go from there. But I always thought that wasn't a good enough job. I could never do a good enough job if all I looked at was that.
Right.
Because the people doing the strategic brief, they only scratch the surface on the clients
Mhm.
to a certain level. And I felt like if I wanted to do a good job, I had to get beyond that level. I took
Interesting.
it upon myself to have conversations directly with the clients, interview them. And what I found was that if you dig deep enough, there's always a story.
You were looking beyond the surface level strategy and what they wanted to find more insights?
Yeah. And it's partly what made the company tick, what
Mm,
made the brand special. And these are things that don't often come up in a very professionally developed brief.
yeah. It is very condensed.
It's condensed, and so here's what I discovered. It says, "The more you condense things, the more generic you are forced to be.
Broad.
You have to be. You're
Yep.
gonna generalize. You have to be." But what's fascinating and interesting and where the gold is in the little specifics.
Mhm.
And the reason why those little specifics don't come up in a traditional brief, one of two reasons. Possibility number one is the client, and at this point you could extend the word the client to anybody because
Mhm.
it applies to ourselves as well. We don't think that this detail or this specific is important enough.
Mhm.
We don't give it value because, oh, it's just what we do, or yeah, but that just applies to this one little thing. And I'm shaking my head. I said, but don't you see how this one little thing informs everything? And
Yeah.
it's different and it's unique and it's interesting and it's exciting and people need to hear about it.
It's like the niche that brings people to the relation of your company. Like, they can relate to you.
It's the little trigger that explains
Mhm.
everything
Mhm.
in a real way, in a relatable way, in a tangible way,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
opposed to just generic descriptive words
Yep. Yep. Do you find that in copywriting?
all the time.
You can dig down into, like, those specific words, just like earlier when you were like, "When you say you,
Yeah.
do you mean this kind of you or do you mean that kind of you?" You know, you're diving into language as a communication descriptor and also a communication connector.
Yeah. Yeah, all of the above. So that's one reason why it doesn't often come up in just a generic conversation. But
Mm,
the other reason is actually more interesting often
mm,
is because it often that little thing that they don't mention
mhm.
really stems from a possible weakness
That
or
makes sense.
insecurity or vulnerability or sense of, well, we don't really want to talk about that. And if you dig below that, the story of why that happened or why that came up, and I know we're talking because here I am and trying to describe this in generic terms, but
Yeah.
we could make this more, I guess, personal. God, I wasn't expecting to come here so soon. But anyway, and oh, but we don't really want to talk about that, is
Yeah.
what you hear. I said,
Yeah.
no, that's exactly what we want to talk about.
Yeah. The reality of the day to day or what seems possibly mundane even is
Yeah.
actually the secret sauce.
Or the insecure.
Oh, 100%. But we have a bunch of clients in our marketing company. And yeah, we're trying to explain to them that their brand is there, but also they are their brand.
They are their brand.
And their story is their brand, and sharing themselves, even though they might feel like nobody wants to see me. Nobody
Yeah,
wants to
but
see
they
me in
do,
my
but they
everyday. Yeah,
do.
that is the thing that people really connect to and really get excited about is that other human and other story and different and similarities and something that they can relate to and maybe something they never even thought about, that perspective that they never thought about before.
And the
So
perspective is often driven by let me back up a little bit. I said, I believe that human beings are problem-solving machines. We were born to solve problems. It's
yeah,
one of the reasons why we've evolved. And every evolution is the result of a solution to a previous problem.
that
And
makes
every
sense.
solution gives rise to another problem that's more finite, more granular.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Honing it down into a into
Yeah. And so oftentimes I'm driven by the question, what is the problem you're trying to solve?
Mhm.
Now, if you ask it the first time, you'll get the generic brand problem
I want more people to know I exist or whatever.
or whatever it is. Yeah. And then if you keep asking the question in different ways and you get personal, because again, your clients, there's a real human being. It's not a faceless corporation. But I'd say even in a face, it's
Yeah.
harder to find because you have to go back maybe 100, 200 years
Mhm.
in a long-standing corporation. But it's still there because it was developed, it was created by a human being who is driven to solve a problem,
Mhm.
and the problem could be a problem in the market, or it could be a problem in how the company is structured.
Yeah, it
And
makes
it's
sense.
very often a problem that they faced personally.
Something
And
that they
then
wanted to solve that was bugging them.
it was buggy. It was like, yeah, it's like, what is that thing that, because guaranteed when you solve a problem that you yourself are driven to solve, as opposed to, well, we saw a gap in the market, but
Yep.
I don't feel personally connected to it. I just see a gap in the market.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe that works for some people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would imagine the clients that you work with, and very often the clients I work with, there's a personal reason. Why was it a problem for you is where the story is.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to get up in the morning and go after it if it's a personal
Yeah.
problem that you're willing to solve, because when it's an abstract idea, deal with it abstractly. You deal with it vaguely. And again, as you said, that bully can be a driving force for somebody with a different motivating factor in their life. But I think you're correct in assuming or connecting that most people are driven by things that they personally feel connected to at a deeper level.
And personally affected by in a negative way.
Mhm. Yeah,
And that's
the
that's an important thing. So I know we're in the era of positivity and life is
Are we
beautiful
though? Are
and
we though?
abundant.
Because I feel like when I go on, not to refute you or anything like that, but I feel like I will get a negative comment more faster, like on
Right.
Facebook or whatever. Like people will respond quicker in general. I know we're in an era of
You're just
positivity, but I
proving my
feel
point.
like the positivity might be forced in a lot of ways, because the
And
natural human tendency seems to be to react, and they feel like they need to react to something that if they like it, they will most likely not say they will like it. 'Cause I, like, post a lot of stuff. Obviously, I post a lot of stuff on the internet, and I'm a creator on the internet, and people will watch it, and they will like it, but they won't like it on the internet, or they won't hit the like button, and they won't make a comment. Often, they will come up to me in person and say, "Hey, I saw your video. That was really great." And it's just very interesting that they're more likely to say I didn't like it online, but they're less likely to be positive. So
And if you ask, "Why did you like it?" and you ask it at least 3 times in different ways, you'll probably, that's my experience, you'll probably get to, "I didn't like it because of something negative, because it
Interesting.
solves a negative issue in my life. I liked it
Mhm.
because."
Oh,
Right? So,
right.
it's like, this is why you're absolutely right. You're not refuting my point, you're actually supporting it.
Mm,
Because the whole self-help thing has wanted us to believe that life is beautiful and it's all about abundance, and it's like, what are you know, like, what are you passionate about?
yes.
Right? And it doesn't get it almost never gets to what really makes people passionate. What really makes people passionate is what drives us up the wall.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, people will more likely 100% leave a review about a movie if they didn't like the movie or whatever. You know what I mean? If they didn't like the brand, if they didn't like the color, it rubbed them the wrong way, they will react to it. Whereas it's like pulling teeth trying to get people to leave a review if they did like something. And they're like, "Oh, no, I just liked it." You
Well,
know,
where can people leave a review for this? Where can people leave a review for this, Sandra?
well, leave a review below or on the Ears podcast. We'll have a review section in the bottom, or you can do it on YouTube. Just drop a comment. But we'll see what kind of comments we get, if any at all. And it's just an interesting sort of experiment that I have seen when I do bump into a bunch of people in real life, and they will say all sorts of stuff that they fair enough, maybe they just don't wanna interact online. But yeah, I wanted to bring it back to Mo Mondays because you were saying that you might be thinking about a relaunch?
Oh, no, we are beyond the thinking stage. As you described at the beginning, Mo Mondays is and was a platform for a monthly storytelling event happening in up to 20 cities across Canada and the US. It came out of my experience as a professional speaker.
Mhm.
And I really felt like, I breathe rarefied air because I get to go to conference and share the stage with all kinds of amazing speakers. And I know firsthand how powerful a well-crafted story is on the audience.
Mhm.
But the other thing is, I'm also very aware of how powerful a processed story is for the teller. Right.
So something that they have really thought about. Is that what you mean by processed? Is they've
That's exactly what I mean.
literally processed it and gone through and honed it to that point that we were talking about so that they can share the relevant details and the relevant points to the
Yeah.
audience
Yeah.
rather than trying to work it out in the moment?
So many people that I spoke to, not so many, but a lot of people says, "Oh, I know my story."
Right.
To which I'm thinking, unless you've told that story in public,
Mhm.
preferably on stage, you actually don't know your story.
Yeah, that's so interesting because Um, I would imagine, and I wanna hear why, but I would imagine it would be because you're sharing your story and you're receiving the feedback from the audience, and that changes your perception of the story. Is that partially?
Well, I think that's part of it, but I think the important part of it is in leading up to it. It's just like you know your story, but unless you've written it down or told it or both, it's like draft zero point 0.5.
Yeah, it's part of the processing, as you said, is to engage with it on these different levels and within these different platforms of writing and saying it out loud a few times, practicing it.
Because it
And
gives you the opportunity to say, "Well, is that really what I mean?"
yeah,
It gives you the opportunity to say, "Does this even make sense? Would it make sense to somebody else? But if it only makes sense to me, then I have to understand why it just makes sense to me. Maybe
right.
there's something underneath that I'm not saying because either I'm not acknowledging to myself or I just think it's so obvious. What
Yeah,
is that?"
there's a lot of that in,
There's a lot
like,
of that, right? So, yeah, it's just like when you write an article. Would you
Mhm.
expect to write an article and have it published when you haven't really written it down? Like if you just talked it into a
A
microphone the way you
microphone.
think you hear it in your head,
Yeah.
and then that be published? You know, you never expect that. You'd expect to go if somebody is not a writer, you'd say, "Well, I'd probably do 3 drafts." A writer
Mhm.
would probably say, "Oh, yeah, if I'm not on draft 18, then
Wow.
it's probably not good enough," right? Or so you
Yeah.
have to go through that processing. You know, my father had an expression. My father was also a writer,
Uh-huh.
and he'd say in French, "Le faim vient en mangeant." The eating or that hunger comes from eating. And he applied that to writing. He says, as you write what you think you know, you learn more.
Yeah. That's a great insight.
You learn more. So you learn from writing what you think you know and discover what you don't yet know.
I love it. That is quite the process, and I think that's a great way to assist your speakers coming into Mo Monday to hone their craft and get ready to speak at Mo Mondays. And it sounds like it's a great launch. And I know that you did say you're going to focus on music a little bit more. I wanted to hear more about your musical format that you're going to use on Mo Mondays.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. 'Cause that's a big deal. I wanted to, so you know, before COVID or when COVID happened, we really had to pull the plug on everything. Live
Mhm.
events, no more. And then when COVID didn't pass, because it hasn't, never will pass now, but the anxiety around COVID has passed.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
people are going back to live events. I said, okay, maybe it's time to relaunch Mo Mondays. I just want to do it in a way that jazzes me.
right.
And because when everything was shut down, I said, okay, great. I'm disappointed, but now I have an opportunity to explore other parts of me and my life that I've wanted to explore for a long time. And
Mhm.
so I really honed my guitar playing and I honed my songwriting. I have since put out 2 albums. Yes, you could listen to them on Spotify or Apple or Tidal or LimeWire. I don't know. Half my songs, I would say, were directly informed
Mhm.
by things that I gained through Mo Mondays.
Really?
Yeah, people's stories, but also the courage to talk about my own stories.
Mm.
Say more than half. There's always that theme running through. You know the expression, you write what you know.
Yep.
Write from the heart. You know what comes
Mhm.
from inside. So COVID back into live events. I people ask me, so when are you going to start up Mo Mondays again? I say, you know, I'm not ready yet.
Wow, so I
I don't
really
know.
caught you at a good time, a good moment.
This is like ideal timing. So I say if I were to relaunch Mo Mondays, I would want to do it in a way that incorporates a lot more music.
Cool.
So I put that out to people who really wanted to do it. I said, this is what I have in mind. Want to do mainly singer-songwriters. So 3 or 4 singer-songwriters, 1 speaker, like in the old storyteller
Mhm.
format. And then the singer-songwriters would craft the story behind the songs
Mhm.
with as much care, and I'll explain why I say this, with as much care and intentionality as they wrote the song as they had when they wrote the songs themselves.
Mhm.
And the reason why I say it that way is if you go to um, open mics or if you go to songwriter circles, the Nashville Songwriter Circle is well established format where the singer songwriters will supposedly share the story behind the song. But what I found when I went to many of those is it is the singer songwriter. So wait, side note, this is me identifying the itch that I want to scratch that led to, right? So it relates back to the earlier conversation we were having.
Mhm.
So what I found that really bugged me was I'm there to hear the backstory, and I could tell it's not really well thought out. In some case, I don't want to tarnish everybody with the same black brush.
Yep.
But in a lot of cases, it was like, yeah, so I was on the bus
Yeah.
and I was, watching these people in front of me and it, and then I thought, well, that's kind of, and well, I hope you really like this.
Yeah, yeah, and then I wrote a song about it,
And
and
then
and
you
then the
wrote a
song
song.
is amazing, and the story behind the song is not necessarily connecting to that so much.
Yeah. The purpose, and incidentally, now I give coach and I give workshops to singer-songwriters on how to do your preamble. The
I love it.
preamble should not be a reiteration of the song, of the story in the song.
Yep.
It's the backstory of the story in the song.
Mhm.
Or it could be, and that's the long version. But the short, there are like 5 different ways that you could set up a song
Mhm.
to encourage the listener to want to hear it even more.
Ooh, so that's basically the format coming forward on Mo Mondays is you're gonna have singer-songwriters doing their preambles as
And
the
then
story rather than
correct,
just straight speakers. And a
correct.
few straight speakers as well, but
One per.
one straight speaker, and that's amazing, and
I grew up in Montreal, in the province of Quebec, in Canada, where there's a different school board for different language, and it's also along religious lines. So my parents could have sent me to the Jewish Hebrew school,
Mhm,
but they didn't have a lot of money and it was extra cost. They could have sent me to the English Protestant school, which was the
mhm.
public school, or they could have sent me to the French Catholic school. Don't forget, my mother raised in France. My father came here from France, actually Iranian born, met my mother in France. That's a longer story. And then they had to decide where to send me to school. They're little kids,
Yeah,
me and my
yeah.
brother. They decided to send me to the English Protestant school
Oh, okay.
because, and it was kind of weird because in my little community, 30 out of the 32 kids were Jewish in my English Protestant school.
Yep, yep, depending on the area.
Yeah. So here I was, a little French Jewish kid, because I spoke French before I spoke English,
Makes
a
sense.
little French Jewish kid in an English Protestant school
Ay,
in
ay,
a
ay.
French Catholic province.
Yeah, that's,
It,
interesting. Y y you've gotta what is my identity within that is, I
and
guess,
it
the
didn't
question.
matter which group of kids I hung out with, I was always the odd kid out. And I was a
Mhm.
shy little kid. Shy, shy, shy. Even in my little sub Jewish community, I
Yeah,
was the odd kid out because
yeah.
my mother's one type of Jewish and my father is another type of Jewish and what they have Jews in Iran. Yes, in fact, one of the most ancient Jewish communities are from there. But people don't know that. What, they have
Yeah,
Jews in France? Yes, the biggest Jewish population in Europe,
yeah.
right? Like blow their minds. Anyway, didn't matter which group of kids I hung out with. I was always the odd kid out. And at first I tried to hide it, tried to blend in, but it's hard to do. And eventually I started making that my thing. This is who I am. So
Right.
my French friends that speak English, my English friends that speak French, it was great. I didn't have to go to French class. But anyway,
Mhm.
and to everybody outside my, I made I had no bones of saying I'm Jewish. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And it was almost like I was wrapping myself in the flag of differentiation.
Good, good, because so many people I know can really not get over that. They will be very affected by having been the one different person or feeling isolated and not the same. And I'm glad that you could find diamond in the rough as in the strength within that. What is might be perceived or felt as a disadvantage, you can take that and create something very positive out of it and not in a
So,
positivity way.
right. So remember earlier we talked about very often, if you dig deep enough, it's why we don't want to talk about that because it shows me it's my insecurity, it's my vulnerability, it's my weakness, whatever. Right.
Well done wrapping it back
And
around.
30 years later, my clients ask me, Michelle, how did you get to our differentiation so quickly? I mean, we've worked with marketing communications professionals for years, and they've never really brought this out in us. How did
Mhm.
you? And for the longest time, I'd say, I don't know. I
Ah,
don't know. It's just what I do.
Makes
But I've
sense.
learned something else. I've learned something else, is that when somebody pays you a compliment,
Mhm.
you listen.
Mm.
You listen,
Mhm.
because it took me a long time. It's not like, "Oh, yeah, this is why." It took me a long time, and I actually had to talk this through with somebody else who can steer me in the direction that they thought they were curious about, and then it's, "Oh my god, that's why I do this. That's what I'm driven by. That's why because that's what worked for me, and I want everybody else to feel this joy of self-acceptance. And it's just as true in business as personal.
Yeah, that makes sense because it can make what again, what you perceive or feel as a disadvantage your advantage, your strength, and in business and in a personal life. So, yeah, that is an amazing insight. And also listen when someone gives you a compliment.
Yeah, because most of the time we'll say, "Oh, yeah, well, it's nothing." Well, it's
No.
nothing to you, but
Mhm.
it's not nothing to the person who gave you the compliment.
Yeah, and that's
You
great
know,
feedback too.
easy for you, hard for others. That's where your value is. So in
Mm.
fact, our value is where we don't even place value.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Again, because you just think, "Oh, no one wants to know about that, and that's just my day-to-day thing, and it's really easy for me
Mhm.
to do that. So I don't wanna talk about it. I wanna talk about my struggles, you know,
Yeah.
and
And so it's not about, you know, therapy session or anything like that, but it's
Mhm.
really about being curious, going back to the very first thing that we talked about, that connects the two of us, is we're both curious about what makes people tick.
Yes, yes, 100%.
So, yeah, so this is what has driven me, and you don't really know what makes you tick, or people don't really know what makes them tick until they've gone through several drafts
Mm.
of that thinking. And we'll go back to the music thing. The reason why I was so intentional is I want people to be as intentional with the story that they set up the song with as the
Yes.
song it's them, is
Yeah,
because
that's
they
exciting.
yeah, that to me, that's exciting, and I'm hoping that would be exciting to other people as well. So, I asked people, "Oh, yeah, I've introduced this song before." I said, "Have you ever, do you write down the story that you used to as a preamble to your song?" I said, "No, no." I said, Did you write your lyrics out when you were writing your song?" I was like, "Yeah, right, of course." So
Mm,
why would you not write out your story?
mhm.
Because that's when you realize that the gaps in your logic that that
Yeah,
don't make sense to other people, or maybe what's the best opening line? Does it have to be chronological?
yeah.
Probably not.
Do you have to say, "Well, I really like this. I hope you guys like it too," every single time?
Yeah,
Maybe you wanna
which
mix
is
it up a little bit, maybe, maybe. But I wanted to see before we run out of time, I wanted to find out when you're planning on launching Mo Monday. Dig down into any last things you wanna talk about before we wrap it up and say goodbye.
all right. So I think let's go full circle, and you say you seem to be into a lot of different things, and that's true.
Mhm.
The thing that always surprises me, but it shouldn't, is that all of these different things are really driven by the same core thing, which is what makes us tick, what makes us different, and how can we communicate that in different ways to the world in the ways that will help other people evolve themselves. So, Mo Mondays, November 24th in Philadelphia will be our first one in this format. It will also be available virtually, which is another new thing.
Very
So
cool.
if you're interested, go to momondays.com, which is spelt exactly the way it sounds, Mo Mondays.com, and you go to calendar and you'll see the links there to buy a ticket virtually or in real life, which is my preference. And I'm traveling to this one personally.
Nice.
I'll be hosting it. So I'm really excited. So rather than try to spread it out and rely totally on other people to host it and format and do all that, said, no, you know what?
Awesome.
This is what if people are interested in momondays.com. If people are interested in learning more about my music, and especially now that I've kind of given a little bit of the backstory of what drives me in my music, even the funny songs that I've written, you could probably hear how some of these themes are playing out. So if you're interested in that, or you just want to listen to it because you like to tap your toe, that's cool too. You go to Michel Neray .music. I have the domain for .music, which is kind of
Okay.
cool.
That's awesome.
Yep. And if you're interested in any of the professional work that I do, because I apply all of this in my speaking, I speak at conferences, I speak about this, I coach and consult with clients,
Mhm.
sometimes very professionally, that you wouldn't think is behind what I'm talking about is behind all this, but it is to get their core message and the story of their core message to help them
Wow.
resonate with their audiences. Go to Neray.com, which is my professional website. And yeah, we'll leave it at those three.
Well, that's amazing. I love all of your insights that you gave us today. It was a wonderful chat. I had a lot of fun and I might have learned a few things too. So I would love for you to come back on the podcast another time and let us know how Mo Mondays is going, how your music's going, and what you're working on in the future. So thank you so much for coming on today.
Happy to do that. Thank you, Xandra.